Let me start with something most people never really put into words. Some children grow up without ever feeling truly protected. Not from danger, not from fear, not from emotional harm. And the strange part is, many of them do not realize this until they are adults. They grow up believing what they experienced was normal, that constant alertness was responsibility, that early maturity was strength. That learning to stay quiet, adaptable, and self-reliant was a skill, not a survival response. Ha ha. When a child is never protected, they do not grow up feeling unsafe all the time. Instead, they grow up feeling like safety is something that must be earned, like calm is conditional, like rest comes only after proving usefulness. This belief settles quietly into the nervous system and becomes part of how they see the world. Protection in childhood is supposed to be invisible. You are not meant to notice it. It exists in the background. Someone watching. Someone stepping in. Someone making sure the world does not overwhelm you before your mind is ready. But when protection is missing, the child notices everything. They notice tone changes in a room. They notice moods before words. They sense tension before conflict happens. Their nervous system learns early that it is, on its own, So the child adapts. They become observant, emotionally intelligent beyond their years, careful, measured, controlled. Adults often praise this child. You are so mature for your age. You do not need much help. You are strong. But what they are really saying is you learned to survive quietly. The unprotected child learns one powerful lesson early. No one is coming. And that belief slowly shapes everything that follows. When a child is protected, they learn that the world has buffers, that mistakes do not equal disaster, that fear does not always have consequences, that someone bigger will step in if things go wrong. But when a child is not protected, consequences feel immediate and personal. If something goes wrong, they are the ones who will pay for it emotionally. So they learn to prevent problems before they exist. This is why many unprotected children grow into hyper-responsible adults. They anticipate. They prepare. They think ahead constantly. They carry weight long before anyone asks them to. Not because they want control, but because unpredictability once felt dangerous. Psychologically, this is the mind trying to create safety through vigilance. The brain learns, if I stay alert, I can reduce pain. Over time, that alertness becomes identity. They become the dependable one, the calm one, the one who does not panic. But inside the nervous system never truly rests, because safety was never experienced. It was only managed, always monitored, always maintained. Another trait often seen in the child who was never protected is emotional self-containment. They do not ask for help easily. They do not express need freely. They do not assume someone will respond. As children, expressing fear or confusion may have led nowhere or may have created more problems, so the child learns to keep emotions internal. This is not emotional coldness. It is emotional efficiency. The mind learns that feeling something does not change anything. Handling it does. So emotions are processed privately, silently, alone. As adults, this can look like independence, but internally, it feels like isolation, even in close relationships. Because needing someone still feels risky, haha. Another deep imprint of growing up without protection shows up in how a child learns to relate to emotions. When protection is inconsistent, expressing fear, confusion, or sadness often leads nowhere. Sometimes it even creates more problems. So the child slowly learns that emotions are safer when kept inside. Not ignored, just contained. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional strategy. The mind learns something very specific. Feeling something does not change the outcome. Managing it does. So emotions are processed internally, quietly, alone. Over time, this becomes a habit. As adults, this can look like strength, independence, and self-control. But inside, it feels like carrying everything without relief. Even in close relationships, because needing someone still feels uncertain, haha. Another powerful effect shows up in how love is understood. For protected children, love feels like consistency, presence, reassurance. It feels safe and predictable. For unprotected children, love often feels conditional. Love feels earned through usefulness, through compliance, through being easy to deal with. They learn early that being low maintenance keeps peace, so they adapt. They become different versions of themselves in different rooms. Softer here, quieter there, stronger where it feels required. Not because they are fake, but because authenticity once had consequences. This is why many adults who were never protected struggle with knowing who they really are. They spent so much time adjusting that their original emotional shape was never mirrored back to them. Psychologically, identity forms through being seen and responded to. When protection is missing, reflection becomes inconsistent. So the child grows up with silent questions running in the background. Am I allowed to take up space? Am I allowed to be upset? Am I too much? Even when no one is asking them to shrink. Another subtle but important pattern appears in how authority is experienced. Many unprotected children either distrust authority deeply or become overly compliant with it. As children, authority figures may have been unpredictable, absent, or emotionally unavailable. So the brain learns two main strategies: avoid reliance or avoid conflict. Either way, safety becomes something that must be self-generated, not expected. This often turns into quiet perfectionism later in life. Not loud, not dramatic, but constant. The belief that mistakes are costly, that being prepared is necessary, that relaxing invites chaos. Perfectionism becomes protection in disguise, and burnout slowly becomes the price. There is also a specific kind of emotional loneliness that comes from never being protected, even when surrounded by people, because protection is not just physical presence, it is emotional containment. Knowing someone is holding the emotional weight with you. When that was missing, closeness later in life can feel unfamiliar. Not unwanted, just unfamiliar. Many unprotected children grow into adults who give support naturally. They listen deeply. They show up consistently. But when the roles reverse, something tightens inside. Because being cared for requires surrender, and surrender once felt unsafe. So connection becomes a quiet push and pull, wanting closeness but struggling to receive it fully. From a neurological perspective, this makes sense. A child's nervous system calibrates itself based on early safety. When safety is inconsistent, the system stays on high alert. Even years later in calm environments, the body remembers. This is why rest can feel uncomfortable, why silence can feel heavy, why stillness sometimes brings anxiety instead of peace. The body learned long ago that danger comes when attention drops, so it stays ready, always scanning, always preparing, even when nothing is wrong. But here is the part most people miss. The child who was never protected did not only lose something, they also developed something. A deep awareness, a strong internal compass, a sensitivity to emotional undercurrents that others often miss. They understand pain without explanation. They recognize struggle without words. They carry empathy that was not taught, only lived. But empathy without boundaries slowly turns into exhaustion. And strength without softness slowly turns into isolation. Healing for the unprotected child now grown is not about becoming someone else. It is about teaching the nervous system something it never learned. That safety can exist without constant effort. That support can be consistent. That rest does not equal danger. For many adults, this process is slow because the mind understands safety faster than the body. You can know you are safe and still feel tense. That does not mean you are broken, haha. It means your system learned survival early. One of the most important steps is learning to recognize needs without judgment, not calling them weakness, not minimizing them. Needs do not come from immaturity. They come from being human. Another step is learning to receive without performing, to allow care without earning it, to rest without justification. This feels uncomfortable at first because an old belief whispers, if I let go, everything will fall apart. But that belief belonged to a child. An adult can slowly update the rules with repetition, with gentleness, with time. Protection, in adulthood, looks different. It looks like choosing environments that do not demand constant alertness. It looks like honoring limits instead of pushing past them. It looks like allowing emotions to move instead of locking them inside. The psychology of the child who was never protected is not a story of damage. It is a story of adaptation, of strength built in silence, and of an adult now learning that safety does not always need to be constructed. Sometimes it can simply be allowed. And when that realization lands, something shifts. The body softens. The nervous system slows. The constant scanning eases. The child who learned to survive begins to learn how to live. And gently over time, the body learns something new, that it is finally safe to exhale. And that is healing.